Greetings everybody, Richard Fulmer here. Welcome to another edition of Richard's Rock Rambles. So today we're going to finish our Southern rock journey and we're going to take a look at a band that have been around for 50 plus years. The little old band from Texas, ZZ Top. Yep, they're still going. Started out in about 1969. Trio, three guys, and I think one of the few bands that have managed to keep the same lineup pretty much throughout their career. So who are we looking at here? Billy Gibbons, the great Billy Gibbons on guitar. Most of his career, I think he's played a Les Paul. He's had a massive collection of guitars, but I think that's been his main, at least in the first 10 years of their career, that was his guitar of choice. Dusty Hill on bass, great bass player, really lays down the bottom end and locks in with Frank Beard on drums. So those are the three guys. They formed in Houston, Texas, 1969, way back when. And their first, I would say, 6 albums, for me, are essential. They had a huge comeback in the 80s. For me, that didn't work. I'm not a fan of that period. It was the synthesized sound, the electronic drum sound. To me, that wasn't ZZ Top. Their essence for me had been lost. Subsequent to those albums, I think there were 3, Eliminator, Afterburner, and Recycler were the 3 in that 80s period where they had that 80s sound. They have tried to recoup their old sound, and I think to some extent they've achieved that. Although I don't think they've ever reached the heights of their early output, which for me was the most creative and was so well produced. And they had the great thing about ZZ Top is, look, there are a lot of power trios out there, rock trios, but these guys had their own sound. And they have a groove. You have to listen to their stuff to understand what I'm talking about. It's the ZZ Top sound. You know, it's great when a band are immediately recognizable by their own stamp. And ZZ Top are one of those bands. And when Billy Gibbons launches into that lead break of his, you know it's ZZ Top. But not only that, Dusty Hill and Frank Beard in the rhythm section are super tight. And Frank Beard especially has this really easy style on the drums, lots of fills, but rock solid. So that's pretty much their career in a nutshell. We're going to have a look at their albums just now. The first album came out in 1971. And that was simply titled ZZ Top's first album. And that's that bad boy there. And that's the back cover. The 3 of them. And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't Frank Beard. He was called Rube Beard on this album for some reason. And then subsequent to that, he was known as Frank. This is a great album. Some standout tracks on here. Brown Sugar, great riffs from Billy Gibbons. Neighbor Neighbor, great track. Just Got Back from Babies, and one of the big hits that came off here is Backdoor Love Affair, which I think they probably still play to this day. 10 tracks, produced by Bill Ham, who went on to become their producer at least for the early 5-6 albums. Really, really great album, one to check out. I'm just going to show you the ones that I have. There's a lot that I don't have. I need to get. But let me show you what I have, and then I'll go through some of the others. Rio Grande Mud. This was let me just check. This was the second. This was the second album in 72. Also produced by Bill Ham. Some of the standout tracks on here: Francine, Just Got Paid, Chevrolet, Whiskey Mama, that's a great track, Barbecue, Apologies to Pearly, Billy Gibbons, lead guitar, slide guitar, harmonica. Although I must be honest, I've seen a few DVDs of ZZ Top and I've yet to see him play the harmonica. Although on a few of the early albums he does feature on harmonica as well as fiddle. So, don't know why he doesn't play that anymore on stage. But anyway, Dusty Hill, bass guitar. He's also does a lot of lead vocals, Dusty Hill. He's got a high register voice as opposed to Billy Gibbons, a slightly lower one. Frank Beard on drums. I know Frank Beard also does backing vocals because on some of the DVDs I'm seeing him wear that wraparound mic thing, so one assumes that he does do a bit of backing vocals. So that's Rio Grande Mud. Then we go on a few years to Texas. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is that one there. Great cover. See what's Arrested for Driving While Blind. That's a great track. Great lyrics. El Diablo, Asleep in the Desert. Enjoy It and Get It On. That's got a really nice groove to it. $10 Man. Good album. One to check out. I'm a huge fan of the early stuff, simply because of the guitar sound that Billy Gibbons gets as well as the groove that these guys have, the locked in groove. So that's that one. The other ones I'd like to mention, one I really need to get myself, is Tres Hombres, which is probably the biggest seller of the early period. And that album had huge hits. LaGrange, which I'm sure everybody knows, and that riff has been copied by countless other bands, that intro. Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago, and those two songs sort of segue, the one segues into the other. And those are staples, they have to play them. Then there was an album called Fandango, which was a sort of studio and live album, also great. Tush is on there, another big hit. Heard It on the X, Jailhouse Rock. Then there was Texas, which I have shown you. Diguelo, now that's another album that I really love. That's got I Thank You, I'm Bad, I'm Nationwide. There's a really great track on there called Manic Mechanic, which starts with a car starting up. Great groove, amazing riffs. Fool for Your Stockings, and another huge hit for them, Cheap Sunglasses. Then we get to El Loco, Tube Snake Boogie, Pearl Necklace. That was another big hit for them. And then we get to the 80s albums. Eliminator, which was a massive album for them. I mean, they sold gazillions of copies of that. And they also hooked up with the whole MTV generation. So there were lots of music videos for their songs. Rough Boy, I know there was a music video for that. Gimme All Your Loving. What else did they have on that album? Sharp Dressed Man, Legs. I mean, almost every song on that album, Eliminator, was a hit. So they reached a whole new audience. And there were a lot of people who got into ZZ Top at that stage who probably had never even heard the early stuff. So they, as I said, they got a whole new fan base. But those albums just didn't work for me. I hated the drum sound. You know, when you've got a guy of the caliber of Frank Beard behind the drum kit, you don't want to hear that tinny electronic drum kit. But hey, it was the 80s and that was the sound. Then came Afterburner, which had Rough Boy, Sleeping Bag, Velcro Fly. Recycler came after that. My Head's in Mississippi. Then there was the Greatest Hits that was released. And an album called One Foot in the Blues, which was great because this featured all their blues tracks. And they were essentially a blues-based rock trio in the beginning. They changed their sound to get their own staple sound. Brown Sugar's on here, Fool for Your Stockings, My Head's in Mississippi, Apologies to Pearly. Really great collection on there. So there have been 15 studio albums. Most recent being La Futura, which was out in 2012. So that's already some time back. I have heard rumblings of a new album coming out maybe later this year or early next year. We'll have to wait and see if that happens. There's a couple of live DVDs. For me, the best is Live in Germany in 1980. I think it's part of that Rock Palast series. And seeing old Billy Gibbons bop around the stage there, I don't think he does that anymore. But that's a great one to get. And then there's the more recent one, Live from Texas, which is great. There's also Greatest Hits videos, which had all the MTV video hits and a few others on that DVD. Then more recently, there's been a documentary called That Little Old Band from Texas. And that's very interesting. I've managed to see that. And there's obviously interviews with the guys in the band and people associated with the band. And something that I was not aware of was Frank Beard's hassles and troubles that he had with drugs and how he got himself out of that. That's obviously comes with the fame and the money and everything else, the usual story. But it's a really interesting DVD, and it's it goes up to quite recent times. So as a good overview of the band, that's one to check out. I was lucky enough to see ZZ Top in the early 90s. They very kindly came out to South Africa, played a couple of concerts here. They played at the now sadly no longer around 3 Arts Theatre. Great concert. Those guys are so laid back and in such a groove. I mean, I was just standing there with my mouth wide open watching these guys. Very cool. No rock star personas, very easygoing, great with the crowd. Really enjoyed that concert. There are also a couple of box sets that you can get which sort of encompass the whole ZZ Top career. There's one called the Six Pack. There's a really nice one called Chrome, Smoke and Barbecue, which gives you a lot of B-sides and lesser known tracks. That's probably the biggest box set of theirs. And then there's the studio albums 1970 to 1990, which is a 10 CD box set. That's also really good to get. I think these are pretty much all still in print, so you can still get these. Then there's a 5 LP box set called ZZ Top Going 50. 50 years. Not too many bands can say that. It's also available in a 3 CD format. So that's also pretty good as an overview to get. Then Billy Gibbons has got a couple of solo albums. 2015's Perfecto Mundo, which is great. There's a lot of the ZZ Top sound. Obviously it's him on guitar, so it's recognizable. But he also incorporates a lot of other, some sort of Latin influences, some blues, a bit of soul, a bit of R&B. And the more recent one called the Big Bad Blues album from 2018, which I think also features a whole lot of guest artists, as these guys do these days. Bono Massa and people like that, they always have guest artists, and on his album there were quite a few. The other album that I forgot to mention that I have is their very first best of, the best of ZZ Top. That's that one there, and there's the back. And this came out way back in 1977, I think. And this had Tush, Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago, Francine, Just Got Paid, LaGrange, Blue Jean Blues, which is a great blues track. Slow blues, nice guitar. Backdoor Love Affair, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, and Heard It on the X. I mean, I got this years ago. That was my introduction to ZZ Top. So there we have it. One of the classic rock trios. Still going to this day, as I said. Hopefully there'll be an album out soon. Hopefully towards the end of the year. And who knows in these days. With album releases and bands not touring, etc., etc. Everything's sort of up in the air at the moment. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, any comments down below. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Next time we're going to be leaving the Southern Rock thing for the moment. And I'm going to try something called bands that should have been big, really big, but didn't quite get to the next level. So that'll be the next episode, and we'll see where that takes us. Hope everybody has a great week. See you guys soon. Cheers.